Hello and welcome to another edition of Homeland Security Today's special editions on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Today, we're extremely excited to talk to Major Tuggle, who is the director of the largest law enforcement training facility in Mississippi, the Mississippi Law Enforcement Officers Training Academy. And what we really wanted to talk about was kind of the state of law enforcement training and the state of law enforcement in the battle against terrorism and certainly domestic and foreign terrorism. So with that, I just wanted to say that we have been working with Mr. Tuggle for quite a while and are so proud to be associated with him. He is a former Lieutenant Colonel with the Mississippi Highway Patrol and also a United States Marine. I will just say former Marine. I know that that's very sensitive and we really honor you for your service and love that you came back after serving in the Marines and are now serving law enforcement in the United States. So we'd love to talk to you a little bit more and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Excellent. So I've been kind of asking folks just to start of where were you on 9/11?
Well, that's a day that I will never forget. I was sitting in my office and I was reviewing some lesson plans. The students were already in class and one of the coordinators stopped by my office and he just said, "Hey, man, a plane just crashed into one of the towers, Twin Towers." And he just sit there and he said, "I'm gonna go put it on the lobby. Well, let's walk around and look at it." So we walked around and we were sitting in the lobby watching it, but it didn't dawn on us that this was a terrorist attack. We were just sitting there trying to rationalize how careless someone could be to fly a plane into a building. We talked about the pilot being intoxicated, running out of fuel and, suicidal. We talked about it, but we never imagined that it was a terrorist attack until the second plane hit the second tower in real time. And that was unbelievable, Christina. I still see those images today. So I immediately walked into the classroom and informed the class what was happening. I sent the instructor that was teaching the class that day, I sent him home and I transitioned the class to the barracks. And it wasn't until after NBC reported an attack on the Pentagon that I ordered or instructed all the reservists that were in the class to go ahead and get their cell phones out of their vehicles and check in with the military units, and some of them had already been placed on alert. So, but I had a class going on when this happened.
Yes, it was such an incredibly horrific day and so many people were trying to talk to one another and you weren't able to get through on the cell phone lines. You weren't able to find out much except for being glued to your television. So I was kind of in the same position. So it was a devastating day and I'm really just glad that we're able at 20 years to kind of take a look at what contributions you're making every day to making sure that this never happens again. So you are literally the director of the largest training facility for law enforcement in Mississippi. I would argue that you get to deal with every issue that the country is going through, including counterterrorism, but also including diversity. So I would love you to talk a little bit more about the status of counterterrorism and terrorism training in Mississippi from your perspective and how we're preparing our officers for the threats, domestic and national.
Yes, ma'am. We have a very, very successful program. The Mississippi Law Enforcement Officer Training Academy is a very, very regimented facility. All our training is very regimented, and it has to be. Law enforcement has to be regimented because we have a structure. Our diversity is not something that we boast or brag about, Christina. It's just who we are, and it plays a huge part in our success. I believe the majority of successful law enforcement interactions with different cultures are directly related to entry-level training. You're doing a serious disservice to your new recruits if your staff only resembles one ethnicity. There have been discussions, positive and negative, about how we eliminate common colors in training and refer to everybody as one color with different shades, and that shade is blue. Well, we've had some success in that and knocking down the stereotypes and all the prejudices that step in. And once these people recognize and identify each other as being part of a team, that's when we start to see them come together and achieve some of the objectives that are in place at the academy. We believe that spending time on issues designed to divide us is counterproductive. So we focus on a law enforcement code of ethics, and in particular, third paragraph. I would never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, political beliefs, aspirations, animosities, or friendship to influence my decision. We instill that in every recruit that walks through those doors.
That's excellent. And so how do you see that diversity training also helping with the counterterrorism and terrorism mission?
It's lately in society, we have built this stigma up that just because you don't look like a certain person, you take that person for granted, and you don't have an opportunity to establish some type of connection with them. And I've always believed that people are lonely because they build walls instead of bridges. So that diversity training, exposing these students to different cultures, is actually building bridges instead of walls. And that's what we try to instill in our recruits.
And so how has counterterrorism or terrorism training really evolved at your facility over time? Because we've had 20 years of kind of really putting the counterterrorism and terrorism more central into the law enforcement mission. How would you say that it has evolved over that time?
Well, we can talk about training, but one of the things I want to talk to them about from a local standpoint was there's a push to try to get us to what is called de-escalation. And I'm not sure if when we start talking terroristic attacks, that's going to go well. Anti-terrorism training has been downgraded to whatever specialized unit or motivated individual think about it and prepare for it. Most agencies and officers are overwhelmed with extra duties and pushed in so many different directions that they're not thinking about this anymore. We still have to remind ourselves that active shooter events can still be applied to that level of threat. So we will need to pack a lunch in case we have an active shooter incident. I'm talking about what happened in Russia with Beslan and those type of things. These people are planning every day, and this won't be a one punch thing where a guy comes in and set down a suitcase size, bomb. When it comes, they're coming, and we need to bring the lunch and be ready for it. And one of the other things is counterterrorism, seems to have become a sensitive topic. We are focusing more on domestic threats and have dropped our guards on the enemy from abroad, Christina. Both threats still exist. So we have to share information a whole lot better. As a Marine, I will say this here. The United States Marine Corps does an outstanding job at training Marines for combat. I can speak from experience. The training is so realistic that in combat, you can't differentiate what's real, what's training and actual combat. That is a great place to be because you know how to function, you know how to respond. We, and I'm talking about the law enforcement community, need that same preparation to be able to deal with those threats.
Absolutely. And I think that with the Joint Terrorism Task Forces, all of the different unifying structures that have been put in place since 9/11, we're seeing a lot more cross collaboration and certainly more training and more information going to the officers. And I'm hearing from you that you believe law enforcement really needs to continue its focus both on domestic and foreign attacks in addition to active shooter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that is. Our law enforcement leaders, in some cases, not all, we have relaxed some of our standards to recruit officers, and we can't afford to lower our standards to recruit people. We have to recruit some of the most educated, most physically fit, most knowledgeable officers out there. And one of the things we also have to do is when we talk about our federal responders, our federal partners, we want our federal partners to think like responders. I mean, they need to be scholars. We understand that, statesmen, but at the same time, they got to be capable of fighting when the fight comes. We view, this is me personally thinking, this doesn't reflect the opinion of anybody but Thomas Tuggle. I basically view our federal partners as, let's say, commissioned officers. And the sheriffs and police chiefs are your senior enlisted, i.e. your master chiefs and sergeant majors, and basically your senior enlisted guys. Every commissioned officer I know relies on the advice of the senior enlisted. The same concept should apply with federal, state, and local government. listen to the men and women in the trenches. We're talking about our chiefs and sheriffs. Our primary goal is to make the profession successful. I think we need to obligate more funds to conduct extensive exercises, testing, dispatch. I mean, we've got to make sure the communication line stays open, and that infrastructure of communication needs to be protected. You can shore it up, you can reinforce it, but what we need to do, that's law enforcement, fire and EMS, blood banks, emergency operations centers, school districts. Everyone says they have a plan. We need the plural form of that now. One plan is not the solution to every problem. Waiting until the enemy is at the gate is the wrong time to realize that. Because if you do, you just created another problem, and that's called lost time. And in our profession, Christina, lost time equals loss of lives. The time lost creating a new plan and trying to find ways to implement it will never be recovered. That's why your senior enlisted, which are your chiefs and police chiefs, are crucial. They are constantly involving in the changing dynamics, therefore updating and implementing plans in real time. So that's the relationship that we have to have with our federal partners. Trust us, you're not the enemy, and we don't see you as the enemy. We see you as a vital partner in this venture.
So if you could name one thing that could really impact how the next 20 years evolves with those federal partners, and we're talking about DHS and DOJ and other federal agencies that come in with a terrorist attack, or certainly even oftentimes with an active shooter, what would that really be?
Sustain the level of intensity of our traditional anti-terrorism training, shoot, move, communicate, treat the injured, improve public outreach. And education on the many challenges we face and how difficult it is to prepare human beings for this reality. A lot of people don't understand that. And Christina, to see what occurred on 9/11, the first thing, and you can ask 100,000 people, what went through your mind when you saw that? The first thing, shock. So that, in a sense, was an indication that we were not prepared for that reality. So we need to prepare for that. And the military does a very good job that what they call combined arm exercises. They bring all the branches of the military together to do what is called combined exercises to achieve a goal. And that is to either annihilate the enemy or whatever the objectives are, but they work together in unison. That's what we need to do. As local and federal partners, we need to emphasize on working together and coming up with a plan and executing that plan seamlessly.
That is excellent. I really want to thank you for saying that. We are hearing that throughout this series, the 9/11 commemoration that is pulled in all kinds of leadership from across the country, certainly including you and those in law enforcement, and everyone is echoing the same call for collaboration. So I want to thank you for your time. I think we're very, very fortunate to have you in charge of training the next generations of law enforcement. You're an exceptional human being. You know, I've loved you from the start. Your service is tremendous, and we so appreciate your input today, and hope that, you know, all of our federal partners are listening, and I know they're trying to collaborate more, and we have some things to work on, but certainly with people like you out there sharing what local law enforcement needs and what the training needs are, we will be better for it. So thank you for your time today, sir, and we look forward to your next contribution with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.